Hi boys and girls, this is Mr. Katz. Here is a review video. Please make sure you have a calculator, pencil, and something to write on before doing this video. Remember, you're going to do some work and you're going to look at answers. This is hopefully going to be a really good review from what we learned so far this unit. Just a reminder, play the video. You're obviously already doing that. And then when I tell you to pause it, go ahead and pause it. Complete the problem that it says to complete, and then unpause it so that you can replay the video and listen and watch the answer, and then just keep doing that. And there are, I believe, there's a good, I think there's about eight problems that we have to review. First one I changed up. I know we talked about a little in class, but I changed it up. Here is the first problem that I want you to do. Go ahead and come up with 3 different ways that you could find the constant of variation given this graph based on days and money. So here are the points: 1 comma 6.5, 5 comma 32.5, 8 comma 52. Go ahead and pause the video and try to find 3 ways that you can, well, basically find the same constant of variation. Now that you've paused and the video, now that hopefully you've done it, let's go over some of the answers. First of all, one thing we talked about in class is right here. When you know 1, if x is 1, whatever the y is gives you a really good indication of what the constant of variation is. Because when you have 1 day, you make $6.50. Well, that's the constant of variation, because every day that goes on, you're going to be making another 6.5. So knowing what the y value is when x is 1 is one way to know that the k is 6.5. Here, another way you could have found the constant of variation is looking around and just doing division. If you want to know what times 5 gets you 32.5, you can do 32.5 divided by 5. And when you do that, you get, again, k is 6.5. And a third and final way is you could have taken either one of these 2 points. I'm going to do, since we didn't use this one yet, I'll take this one. And you could have made a double number line. We have days and money. And in this case, we have 8 days goes with $52. So those are that's the ratio that goes together. And then we want to know not how much $1, how many days for $1. We want to know how much money do you make in 1 day. So we set up a double number line and think about how can we go from 8 to 1. We could divide by 8. And then if you do the bottom by the same division, because you got to multiply or divide by the same number, 52 divided by 8 is, again, 6.5. So any of those ways can find out the constant of variation, which is 6.5. All right, let's go on to the next problem. So this problem says the ratio of salt to pepper in a certain recipe is 1 1/2 to 3/4. Remembering that the first number is for the first mentioned word, which this would be the salt, and then the 3/4 would be the pepper. How much salt would you need if you had 2 cups of pepper? Right, go ahead and pause the video, do it, and then replay it once you're done. Right, so now that you did the problem, let's go ahead and solve it. So the way I would solve this, there's a couple different ways you could solve this. I like making a double number line. But in order to use a double number line, since we know we're going to have to multiply and divide numbers, I know that turning this into an improper fraction is the easiest thing I can do. So 1 1/2, remembering that you multiply the denominator times the whole number and add the numerator. So 1 1/2 is the same thing as 3/2. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I'm going to make a double number line. We have salt and we have pepper. I'm going to use the initial ratio because I know that this is how they relate. So the salt is 3/2 to the pepper, which is 3/4. And then, let me make my double number line. Okay. So we want to know, we know that we have 2 cups of pepper, so I'm going to go ahead and put that 2 on the pepper side, or the bottom with the pepper. So I'm going to have to bring 3/4, see how 3/4 can be multiplied or divided to get 2. So I might know something that gets me from 3/4 to 2 automatically, but if I don't, I can always bring it back to 1. Remember, by multiplying by the reciprocal, times 4/3 would get us to 1. And then once I have it back to 1, the unit rate, it's really easy because I could just multiply by 2 to get to 2. So whatever I did on the bottom, I'm going to do on the top. So first we got 3/2 times 4/3. Well, multiply 3 times 4, 12. 2 times 3 is 6. And 12 divided by 6 comes out to an even 2. So I can see that I have 2 cups of salt when I have 1 cup of pepper. So now the last step, remember down here I had to finally multiply it by 2, and I get an answer of 4. So that way I know that the answer is I will use 4 cups of salt with 2 cups of pepper. All right, here's another question. John can lift 30 pounds in 5 weeks. If he wants to lift 140 pounds, how many weeks will it take him? Go ahead and pause the video, try it, and then come back when you're replay it when you're ready. Right. For this one, I would also probably do a double number line. I could also find the unit rate, which could help. So if I wanted to find the unit rate, since I want to know instead of 30 pounds in 5 weeks, I can do 30 divided by 5, and that would tell me that he can lift 6 more pounds every 1 week. Once you have that information, 140 pounds, I would have to figure out how many times 6 goes into 140 and then multiply that same thing by the weeks. Since I can't think of anything in my head, 6 times something that will get me 140, I'm going to go with a different method. I'm going to go with the double number line because that to me is the easiest way. So we have how many pounds he can lift in how many weeks. So we know he can do 30 pounds in 5 weeks. And we want to know how much it will take him to do 140 pounds. So remember, we said that if you don't know how to go from the 30 to the 140, you can always bring it back to 1. And that's pretty easy. You divide by 30. And once you're done dividing by 30, you can then, to get from 1 to 140, you can multiply by 140. Well, let's do the same thing here. 5 divided by 30. So 5 divided by 30 is, you'll get 1/6, so you'll get a really funky decimal on your calculator, but leave it in your calculator. When you do 5 divided by 30 on your calculator, leave it in there, whatever answer you get as a decimal, and then just multiply that decimal times 140. So let's go ahead and use a calculator just so you can see what would happen on your calculator. So here's a calculator. So we're going to do 5 divided by 30. And you get, it's 1 and then, well, it's 1600ths, but the 6 repeats. So it's, 0.16 repeating. So I'm going to leave that in my calculator. I'm just going to multiply that number times 140. Notice I didn't take it out of my calculator. And you get an answer of 233 and then the 3/10, which repeats, which you could round to about 23 4/10. So that means it will take him about 23 4/10 weeks. All right, let's go on to the next one. You can buy 6 cans of Pepsi for $3 and 24 cans of Coke for $13.44. Which is the better buy? Well, to know which one's the better buy, the easiest thing to do is to get it down to each of their unit rate. How much for 1 can of Pepsi? So in order to do the unit rate, you could just divide, or sometimes I forget which. Do I do $3 divided by 6, or do I just do 6 divided by $3? And if you can't figure out which one, a double number line is a really helpful way to remember which one to do. You have number of cans and the price. So we know 6 cans of Pepsi are $3. And we want to know how much 1 can costs. So we're going to divide by 6. So that's what we're going to do on bottom. 3.00, or just 3, divided by 6. And if you did that on your calculator, you would have gone 0.50, which is 50 cents. That means the Pepsi the Pepsi cans are 50 cents per 1 can. Now, I'm going to use a different double number line because we don't know that these things are proportional. This might be a completely different unit rate. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to do it in blue now. You have number of cans and price. For the Coke, you had 24 cans, which go with the $13.44. And if I want to find out how much 1 can costs, I'm going to divide by 24 and divide by 24. And when you do $13.44 divided by 24, let's see what we get. Oh, sorry. $13.44 divided by 24. Ooh, it was close, but I get 56 cents or 56 hundredths. So if you compare the two, I can see right away that the Pepsi is cheaper. Not by much, but you know, six cents could add up because the Pepsi was 50 cents a can, but the Coke was 56 cents per one can. All right. And I believe this is the last problem. Go ahead. I'm going to read it, and then after I'm done reading it, you can go ahead and pause it. Sam drove 56.5 miles in 3 hours. How many miles can he drive per hour? Go ahead and pause the video and then play it when you're ready. Right. So now the key information here is per hour. It doesn't say, but we know that that means per 1 hour. So we want to basically take this and put it into its unit rate. I'm going to use another double number line for that. You have the miles he drove and how many hours. We know he drove 56.5 in 3 hours. Remember we talked about in a previous problem, it's really helpful if we change this to an improper fraction. So 2 times 56 is 112 plus 1 is 113. So we have 100, because I add the 1 at the top, so we have 113 over the original denominator, which is 2, is the same thing as 56.5. But it's just going to be easier to work with. So now, in order to know per 1 hour, I need to change the hours to 1. So to do that, I'm going to divide by 3. So I'm going to have to take this fraction and divide it by 3. Now, some of you may have noticed that 56.5 is the same thing as 56.5. So you could have on your calculator done 56.5 divided by 3, or 56 and 5/10. But if you're not sure, remember, another way you can divide fractions is you can multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of dividing by 3, I can also multiply by 1/3. So let me do that off on the side. 113 over 2 times 1/3. 113 times 1 is 113. 2 times 3 is 6. And then last, I just have to do the division. 113 divided by 6. And I get 18.833333, which I'm going to round to. The 3 does not make the 8 go up, so it's about, I could put the about sign, 2 squiggly lines, about 18 and 8/10 miles per 1 hour. And there's your answer. If you would have done 56.5 divided by 3, you would have gotten that same exact answer. I'll show you. 56.5 divided by 3, 18 again, 0.8. All right, so go ahead and feel free to watch that video again, do the problems again, and see us. Remember, your quiz is on Thursday. If you have any questions, let us know.